this 2019 Mazda CX-5. Now, CX-5 is actually Mazda's biggest selling vehicle worldwide now. They sell an awful lot of them. It was purchased used last year with like 20,000 miles. Now it's got 30-something thousand miles. They have had no problems at all. And as you can see, this baby was made in Japan. J. That's what you want. These are the best ones. And it's all-wheel drive. And as we look under the hood, nice size 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. Not some dinky little 1.5 or 1.3. It's a 2.5 liter. It's a nice size engine. But with the Skyactiv technology, sometimes they get almost 40 miles a gallon on a highway in this thing. That's why this is their big seller. The previous version, the CX-3, they weren't bad vehicles, but their big problem was they didn't get such hot gas mileage. This gets much better gas mileage with a bigger engine. That's what the Skyactiv technology does. It's rather complex. Now, they haven't had any particular problems with this model at all. They run, how they shift. Now, some of them, the paint peels off. This one, the paint's perfectly fine. But some of them, especially the kind of orangey ones, I got a customer that's trying to sue them because it's all pitted away. This particular one didn't have a problem, but if you are buying one of these used, and you're fanatic about paint like one of my customers was, look closely in the sun. Not a day like today, cloudy, on a sunny day. And if you see a bunch of pits, don't buy the car because they're not going to do anything about it. She tried to get them to repaint it. They wouldn't do anything about it. She bought it used. They just said, that's a used car. That's what happened. So look at that. But in terms of the car itself, these things are actually quite well made, especially at their price point. He bought it used for like 22 grand with 20,000 miles. All-wheel drive, nice engine. As we look inside, got a beautiful interior. Plenty of space in the back, and the transmission is an actual 6-speed automatic, not one of those horrible CVT transmissions. This has very quick downshifts for acceleration, usually pretty smooth upshifts. We'll find out when we road test it, but it's a pretty good transmission engine combination. It's not overly complex. It can still get pretty good gas mileage driving down a highway. So I mean, they can push 40 on this thing, and it's pretty good for all-wheel drive SUV, be it a compact one. Still, everybody's looking for SUVs. That's how this is their biggest seller, because it meets a lot of people's needs, and they haven't had any particular problems because Mazda actually, as far as I'm concerned, has been upping their quality over the years. I've had quite a few customers buy these things brand new, and I'd say to them, okay, why'd you buy a Mazda? Why didn't you buy a RAV4? They said, well, the RAV4 is $15,000 more if somebody smashed into one of my cars. And I had to buy a brand new car and say the wife wanted an SUV. If the RAV4 was 15 grand more than one of these, I got to say I would seriously consider buying one of these. That's a lot of money differential for cars that can last a long time, and they both get pretty much similar gas mileage on it. I don't particularly care for all-wheel drive myself. I'd get a front-wheel drive one. I don't live in the Rocky Mountains. Most people don't even need the all-wheel drive. And of course, as I've said for years, you buy an all-wheel drive vehicle, anytime you get a flat tire, if the tire's ruined, you got to buy 4 wheels because the all-wheel drive system is very complex. And it's assuming that all wheels are exactly the same size. So if you've got 3 worn ones and 1 brand new one, you blew a tire and put a brand new one, there's much a differential between the size of the new one and the old ones. It will actually wear the transmissions, the differentials out, because the one size tire versus the other on the same axle. And of course, with an all-wheel drive system like this, even if you do it on the front and you didn't affect the back, it's still going to affect the back because they're all related to how they're driving down the road. It's all run by computers. It's called Skyactiv technology, and it's great. But like I say, anytime you get a flat tire, time to buy 4 tires. Not like any modern car, doesn't have a key, got a keyless remote. Now we'll get inside. Solid sounding door, start her up. Of course it starts up, doesn't have that many miles on it. It's only 30-something thousand miles. Not even 30,000. 28,732 miles. And for some reason it's recording, so there, he's got a cam on just like me. You can't trust people these days. And I mean, it really is a nice setup. It's got the dual heat and air conditioning. It does have the electronic parking brake with auto hold. I'm not a fan of the electronic parking brakes, but be that as it may. And you can control everything on the dash here, play with the music, navigation, you name it. Like this, you can play with the volume here. You don't have to touch screens. You can turn the volume and everything here. That's a nice touch. And as you can see, it's a regular automatic, but if you want, you can shift it to manual mode. And now you see we're in first gear, second gear. You can shift it up and down if you want. Most people don't care. They just leave it and drive. And it's not cheap like a Subaru. Look, it's got actual temperature gauge, gas gauge, all the information you want. And you can play with the information here. Traction control, you can turn it on or off. And I like this, no sunroof. I think sunroofs are stupid, they just leak. I don't want a sunroof. Now we'll check out the back seat. It is a compact SUV. There's room here, but the driver's seat here is back the whole way, and you can see it's hitting my legs, and I'm not a total giant, so yeah, it is a compact SUV or a crossover. It's got a decent sized little trunk, and of course when you flip these down, it's more like a hatchback where you can fit all kinds of stuff inside. Let's get my fancy scan tool out and we see how it's doing. I don't expect any problems. It's only got 20-something thousand miles on it, and we'll do diagnostics. I get her beeping, that means it's doing its thing already. And here we go, it already read the VIN. And it knows it's CX-5, 2.5 automatic all-wheel drive. And it should do a nice topology scan. That'll pop up pretty soon. It is cold today though, so it's gonna go a little slower. There's a topology scan, so here we go. It's gonna scan the whole car. We'll look around, you can see it. Wow, it scanned it fast. That was quick. It's only got one code, Smart Start Unit, anti-theft system transmitter. So it says there was a problem with the transmitter at some point in time, you know. Who cares about that? We'll just erase that. So let's start her up. Start her up, and we'll go to the PCM and look at live data. Remember, black is good, red is bad. Put her in gear to get better readings. Valve time is normal. Gives you the fuel rail pressure. No misfires. The equivalency ratio is 1.01, so it's only 1/100th off. Not bad, almost perfect. Oil pressure's normal. Oil temperature is good. Everything's good. That is all good. See, it's never had low oil pressure. I got a lot of information on these things for repairing them. When they do get older, break. But this one hasn't broken yet. He's had no problems whatsoever. He loves the vehicle. So let's take it for a spin. Backup camera's nice and bright. Makes it real easy backing up. Getting a little bit of rain. Well, this is all-wheel drive, so the wheels won't be sliding around. And this is one of these Mazda Zoom, so you can have some fun with it. It's relatively high up in the ground, so it's got no problem going over that hump. But realize, this is a compact SUV, compact crossover, what do you want to call it. It has a relatively small wheelbase, so as we go over these bumps, you're going to feel them. It's a decent ride, but you're going to feel them because it's a short wheelbase. All these smaller SUVs have a bit of a rough ride when you're going on bumps. That's just the nature of a small wheelbase car that's relatively high up in the air. Here we go. Hey, it is zippy. Smooth shifting. This thing's a lot of fun to drive. Now, of course, you're not going to get 40 miles a gallon driving like that, but if you drive conservatively on the highway, you can. Strangely enough, it's rated for much lower gas mileage, but when they drive 60 on the highway, when it's 60 miles an hour, they've gotten up to 40 miles a gallon in this thing. That's why this is their biggest seller. The previous one was a bigger gas hog. This gets better gas mileage, and I mean, that 2.5 liter engine is a good engine. If you want to go faster, you can shift it to manual. We'll do that. It's in third gear now, so we'll put it in. It puts itself in first gear when you stop, which is kind of cool. Sounds great. We'll see what it's like to hill shifting ourselves. All right, now we got it in first gear. Reasonably crisp shifts when you're doing it manually, and you see, even though I'm not doing it when it comes to a stop, it automatically goes to first gear because it doesn't want you to start off in third gear. It goes back to 1 automatically. We'll put it back in drive. Nice crisp shifts. That's why I like this 6-speed automatic versus a CVT where it would have just gone and it wouldn't pick up as well. It is much more fun driving it with an actual 6-speed automatic transmission. And as we roll down the road, I gotta say, handle's pretty good. We'll pop back in here. See how it corners. Nice smooth cornering. No under or oversteering. It's a fun little vehicle to drive. A lot of reason people buy it is because of the space. Look at the headroom. These things have a lot more room than a RAV4 does. There is a lot of room inside of these. Mazda pretty much hit a home run when they decided to mass produce these. Like I say, it is their largest seller worldwide every year. I think last year they sold like 600-something thousand of these things. So there it is. Now you know a little bit more about these CX-5s. I'm impressed. I can understand why so many people buy them. Now the other day, the guy brought me the Volkswagen comparable to this, which is the Volkswagen Tiguan, which is German combination of tiger and iguana. I can't figure that out at all. But be that as it may, the Volkswagen was pretty much in the same price range as this thing was, and burnt oil because it had that horrible 4-cylinder 2-liter Audi Volkswagen turbo engine. These engines, 2.5 liter, no problems. The Tiguan was turbocharged, which is probably one of the reasons it burned oil. Hey, if you're looking for a crossover SUV of this size, I'd say definitely go look at one of these. Compare the prices of the various ones. And if, like some of my customers, they said, well, you know, that RAV4 was 15 grand more than this was, and they bought this, and they've been totally happy with them. Other than one woman who bought a used one, the paint was coming off. Do look at the paint if you're looking at a used one, but I gotta say, with the 6-speed automatic in that engine, pretty decent car. It gets really good gas mileage. And hey, everybody's looking for SUVs. You might check one of these out. 2024 Frontier. He wanted a good, reliable truck without a bunch of crap on it. See, it's got a real emergency brake look. Not some electronic pile of crap. I like that. Let's have a push button start. You can't have everything. As we look under the hood, it's a 3.8 liter. It's a good size. It's got 310 horsepower. It doesn't need turbos. It's going to last longer that way. Hey, when I was a kid, the V8 engines only put out a couple hundred horsepower. There's the V6. It's got plenty of power. These engines can last a really long time. Unlike Toyota that says they're going to get rid of the V6 in the Tacoma. Nissan saying nothing about getting rid of their V6s in their pickup trucks. It's an engine that people want. The 4 cylinders just don't have enough. If you're pulling, this is a 4x4, so you can go wherever you want. You get plenty enough power to get in and out. The 4-bangers just don't cut it. That's why he bought this vehicle. And so far, he's totally happy with it. Now, he got 23 with a trailer hooked up that he unhooked so I can have more fun driving it around. And you really don't feel the pull on it either. They've been making these things for quite some time. They just never got to the popularity of the Toyotas for various reasons. They used to be really ugly and boring. They never styled them up, and so people wouldn't buy them. Well, this is all styled up now. I guess they finally learned their lessons, right? Now, this thing is a 9-speed automatic, and you know what people always say, even in the Toyotas, especially in the Fords and GMs, they say they're always hunting for gears. Not only did this not hunt for gears, but he didn't have to put it on the tow button when he was towing, and it still went perfectly fine. So, unlike Nissan's horrendous front-wheel drive Jatco transmissions that hunt and fall apart, this is an actual transmission with 9 gears in it that seems to have been pretty well designed. You really have to put the Nissan trucks to one side and their cars on the other, because their cars have horrible automatic transmissions, but their trucks, they always had pretty good. Even the old Pathfinders, their automatic transmissions were decent, you know. They're making a rear-wheel drive, and then now this is front-wheel drive added to it because it's 4x4. Their basic transmissions on these things are actually quite well. They just never sold all that many of them because, in truth, Nissan wasn't any good at marketing them whatsoever. And as per usual, it's a modern engine, right? It's got a timing chain, doesn't have belts, and crap on it. And if you look down there closely, this thing's actually got working room. Look, you can put your hand up and down. You just take the plastic crap off, right? Let's go inside, take a look. He got it with all the trimmings. Let's start her up, take a listen. Runs I clap the brakes on because I pushed it on there. We'll take the brake off. Chain switch is 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel high, and 4-wheel low. That's simple. That's all you got to do. Now, it's not a racing truck, right? So it does have the capability. You can put it here, you can shift it up and down if you want. But I mean, let's face the facts. People aren't really racing this thing around. Plenty good enough the way it is. If you do want to really go hard, you can shift it by yourself. Got all your controls on the steering column. Cruise control, very simple to operate. You can get it with your right thumb, no problems at all. And you can go through the computer system, stereo system. Got USB. It's got a C. And as we look under, nice solid frame, real frame. This is a body-on-frame truck. This isn't some unibody bit of nonsense. Check out the paint. I mean, that is a beautiful blue. I really like that blue. These guys are set for traveling. As you can see, they're all loaded up. So roll up the window so you won't hear too much noise. Nissan Intelligent Mobility. Nice backup camera there. Got a lot of view. Got a nice GPS set up here. And with that 300 plus horsepower, this should do pretty good on a little drag strip when you get up there. Now it's nice up in the air. It's not outrageously high, but you don't have to worry about flood water. And since it's a modern truck, they handle a lot better than the old ones. Look, we're cornering relatively quickly. You don't need a tire squeal or anything. They've upgraded the suspensions on these things. Everybody used to say, the Nissans, they're boring. They don't have everything people want. Now, you'll see, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that a Ford or a GM has. You know, all these dancing tailgates and all that crap. But hey, it's me confidence driving it. We're gonna take it out to the drag strip. Nobody coming, so here we go. It's a relatively heavy truck, but it's got 300-something horsepower. So, come to a stop. There's nobody right behind us yet. So, on your mark, get set, go! It picked the front end up. Nice sounding V6. Smooth as silk shifting. Got up to 65 pretty quick. And let's say you want to pass somebody, or we're going 50, we'll floor it. You can see it picks up pretty good for passing people. No problems with that. It is made here in the USA, and I gotta say, I don't hear rattles or anything. It's a lot quieter than a Ford Ranger, I can tell you that right now. To me, Nissan's gonna step up in this truck. And as I said, it's not doing any tricks, turbocharger or anything. This is a naturally aspirated V6 engine. But when they got this much power, hey, I gotta say, they did a pretty good job. Look, we're supposed to be going 20, we're going 50. And I don't have any problems at all. I gotta say, they pretty much hit the nail on the head with this truck, as far as I'm concerned. It's got plenty of power, and it's quite comfortable. These seats are very comfortable, as is the ride. I gotta say, I haven't been in too many 4x4s that rode as smooth as this. Usually they're quite a bit rougher. They've obviously put some thought into the design of the suspension of this thing. And the owner said when he's driving it with that trailer, it didn't even feel there's a trailer on the back. He's got 300-something horsepower, wouldn't bother it all that much. It's not hunting for gears at all. It shifts at the right time, it doesn't go up and down and wobble. Got this 9-speed transmission pretty down pat too. As I said, it's mainly their front-wheel drive cars that have crappy transmissions at Nissan. Their rear-wheel drive ones were always decent transmissions, you know? And all the Z cars, they were all rear-wheel drive transmissions, and they were decent transmissions too. It's luxurious, it's got dual climate control, great AC heating system. And as I said, it's not hunting for gears, and watch this. When you slow down, it doesn't have any problems. Very smooth transition down to first gear. It's a pretty smooth ride for a four-wheel drive pickup truck. So what do I think of this brand new Frontier? Well, I'll tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm gonna tell you, the next time somebody says, hey, Toyota's not making a V6 in their Tacoma anymore, you know what I'll tell them? To buy a Frontier with a V6 engine instead. We live in a competitive world. And if one company decides, oh, we don't want to make those anymore, hey, somebody else can step right in and make something that somebody wants. It isn't like there's only one choice. I like the Toyotas, they last a long time. Frontiers, they also lasted a long time. Just that everybody's got the name with Toyota and they all want a Toyota. Hey, he got exactly what he wanted for 45 grand or so. But when you consider that's the average price of a brand new car in the United States these days, hey, not bad. I had a guy come over here the other day and he bought a Dodge. They're Rams now, right? To me, they're still Dodge Rams, but they call them Rams. He bought a Ram. I said, why did you buy a Ram? He said, because I went to the Ford dealer and they wanted $81,000 for a new one. So I can't blame the guy, you know? Either going too high price or they're not giving you what you want. Find a company like this that's still making the 6-cylinder engines, naturally aspirated. We don't need turbochargers. 300-something horsepower, you don't need a turbocharger. It'll run fine the way it is. And not only does it run good, but hey, it's really a good looking truck too. They finally wised up at Nissan. And it's not an ugly truck anymore. So, hey, if you're thinking about one, I'll tell you, my advice is go road test one. See if you like it or not, you know? You can't hide hunting gears, you know? You're getting a lot of the Fords, as soon as you road test them, you feel them hunting for gears. This baby doesn't hunt for gears at all. So, I gotta give them an A+ on this one. 2017 Subaru Crosstrek all-wheel drive. The guy bought it used. He's had it for 3 years. Hasn't really had to put any money in it though. The catalytic converter went out and he did get it fixed under warranty. But he admitted it was kind of his fault because he drove through a bunch of water, got everything wet, the sensors, the cat, it burned out, and he didn't tell Subaru what happened. He just said, well, it shows the cat's bad, and they gave him another cat. Something like that. If it ever happens to you, keep your mouth shut and say, well, my catalytic converter code's on, it's not bad, it's under warranty. And the warranty on these things, some of them as long as 10 years. So if you do have something like that happen, do like he did. Keep your mouth shut, go in and get a free catalytic converter. They've got plenty of room in the back seat. As you can see, he's got a lot of stuff. But of course, it's a very limited trunk. But then again, so is this RAV4. Don't listen to the suggested retail price. If you're gonna buy a RAV4 versus one of these, you're gonna pay $10,000 to $15,000, $16,000 more for the RAV4. They sell a lot of these. They sell hundreds of thousands of these every year because a lot of it has to do with price point. Both all-wheel drive vehicles, they're almost the same color too, which is kind of bizarre. If you go into the hood, 4-cylinder engines, though extremely different 4-cylinder engines. These are boxers, 2 cylinders on this side, 2 cylinders on this side, where the Toyota's an inline 4. And the biggest difference is this has a CVT transmission, a continuously variable transmission. But 2018 RAV4, it's got a 6-speed conventional automatic, and the newer ones have an 8-speed conventional automatic. If you're going to buy a car wisely, think of what you're going to do with it, because the Subaru has a CVT transmission. They are pretty much useless for towing stuff. Planning on towing, you get the RAV4. This one's a 6-speed automatic. It has no problem towing. This thing will tow over 3,300 pounds. With no problems at all. If you're not going to tow anything, you're not going to care. We don't tow anything with our Toyota Matrix, so we don't care that it's only got a 1.8 liter engine, right? So if you're the type of person that you're never going to tow anything, if you don't mind the CVT transmission, you can be totally happy with the Subaru, with the exception of those who like crisp shifting transmission. You go for the Toyota hands down because it's an actual transmission. This one has 6 gears, new ones have 8. And also realize this, all RAV4s are not created equal. If you get a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid RAV4, they do not have conventional automatic transmissions. They too have CVT transmissions, but for a completely different reason than the Subaru. Their thing is, if you're going to have a hybrid motor, electric motor, and a gasoline motor, that's 2 inputs going into the transmission. And the only thing that really works to have 2 inputs, an automatic transmission, then an output to the wheels, is a CVT transmission. They could not put this 6-speed automatic in a hybrid system. There's no extra inputs. There's only one in the middle mechanical engine. You couldn't add an electric motor in it without going to a CVT. Most people do opt out for an automatic transmission in the Toyota, and that's one reason when the year this was made, guess what? The RAV4 was the largest selling vehicle in the United States outside of trucks. It even outsold the Camry. Go back to the owner of this car. He's not a drag racer. He likes the smoothness of the CVT. He's not racing around. And this particular one, this is the last Subaru that they're making here that has regular fuel injectors. It's got port fuel injectors. Then they went to GDI fuel injection, gasoline direct injection, much more pressure, wears out faster, costs a fortune to fix when it's break. It's one of the reasons he likes buying this one used. It's got a simpler system. It's not going to have the problems that a more modern one has. It is a Subaru, and I'll explain one thing about Subarus that you really got to know if you're a cheapskate like me. These used to blow head gaskets, but that was decades ago. They fixed that. The problem with these are, instead of using gaskets, they use silicone glue sealer, and that's how they seal them from leaking oil. Now, silicone is perfectly fine for a certain period of time, but you get 150, 200 more mileage on a vehicle, these all turn into oil leakers. The silicone eventually dries up, cracks, and oil starts leaking. And because of this tight design, you really got to pull the engine out to replace those seals. That is a big deal. Toyota, it's got a conventional inline 4 where, yes, most of those have actual gaskets on them. If you do replace the Subaru, you can buy aftermarket gaskets, which is what I do if I own one. I'd rather have an engine that might go 300,000-400,000 miles and it's not leaking oil versus one when it gets to be 8, 10, 15 years, depending on how you drive, starts leaking oil and you gotta pull the engine out. To me, I don't want to work on my own cars. I spend enough time fixing other people's cars, right? So I am not a fan of that particular design for long life. Say you drive your car 100, 140,000 miles and you're happy, it probably won't leak and you'll probably be happy with it. But if you're cheapskate like me, you're gonna start thinking, why did they use glue instead of gaskets? And of course the answer to that is, it's just cheaper to make them that way. These cars cost less, they cost less for a reason. Here's an interesting story. You can see this Crosstrek was totaled and it had a rebuild title, but he bought it from Aero Motor Sales, which is the company that buys wrecked cars a lot of times, fixes them and sells them. And the guy says, hey, did a phenomenal job. He's owned this thing for years. He doesn't have any problems with it, right? There are a lot of people these days that are doing things like that, especially since coronavirus rolled through, because they weren't building enough cars. There was a glut on the market. There was not enough used cars for sale or new cars. The prices went up, and of course, say necessity is the mother of invention. Well, they didn't have cars to sell, and these guys, they know what to fix. They're pros, right? So if they see a car that rolled over and everything was crushed or went through Hurricane Sandy, they'd know it's a disaster area. We're not buying that car. Well, guess what? When they fix them for themselves, it costs them a fraction of that. Then they make a profit selling the car, right? So it can be done if it's done correctly. And in this case, we're going to road test it to make sure. But he said he's had no problems with it. So even though it's got rebuilt title on it, the guy sure seemed to have done a good job on it. He had to change the O-ring. They always leak on that. He did that himself. But the ABS brakes, everything still works on it. He got 34 miles a gallon driving over here on the highway. Well, considering that it is all-wheel drive and it's conventional fuel injection, not GDI, there obviously isn't much wrong with this car to get that good gas mileage. It's a rebuilt title, so we're going to get my big computer out and we'll see if there's things he doesn't know about that he's soon going to find out about. Now we got the hotel hooked up. It's running already. We got everything here. We'll do a full scan. It's got a nice steering wheel, nice and small, black and chrome, my favorite. Nice armrest. Really nice, comfortable fabric seats. You can see they're Crosstrek seats. And he's got a lot of junk in the back, so you can see these hold a lot of stuff. They may call them compact crossovers, but there's a lot of space in these things. And what do we have? Everything's absolutely clean, except it has tire pressure monitoring system. What I'm assuming this is, we're going to erase it. We'll see what happens after we take a road test. Since it said it was abnormal, I'm assuming that the wiring is a little bit funky from the front end rack. Now when he's driving, the TPMS light doesn't come on. It only comes on when you check the pressure, so it's not really supposed to do that. It's probably off a little bit, no big deal. Mechanically, everything else is sound. So, fire it up, and yes, it has a key. A keyless ignition system, so you have to worry about this. It has an actual key. And here we go. We got more data you can shake 1,000 sticks at. So, the airflow sensor goes between absolutely perfect 1.00 and 0.99. So, it's either perfect or off 1/100th. You can't really complain about that. All kinds of data on the variable valve timing. Air fuel correction, 0. They're usually doing something. This isn't doing anything because it's running perfectly. So I gotta say, the guys really fixed this well from the rack. The only thing I can see is probably one of the wires for the stupid tire monitoring system is a bit off or something. Like I say, it doesn't come on for him when he's driving. As you can see, it's just a baby. It's only got 66,000 miles on it. Now, it's got a small backup camera, but I like it because it is a wide angle one. This isn't tight and you're wondering. You can see everything on this perfectly fine. Now, it's relatively high. It's not outrageously high. He does minor off-roading in it. It rides fine. You know, it's a relatively short wheelbase, so you're never going to get a super smooth ride. But it's got nice handling characteristics. Coming up to the corner here. All right, it looks like it's coming up now. Here we go. Decent acceleration. Okay, now realize one thing. This is a real CVT. It works the way it's supposed to work, and it's got good enough acceleration. It's just that so many people are used to automatic transmissions that shift that they don't like CVTs. And he mentioned that the rev limiter nearly kicks at about 4,000 RPMs, and he never revs it that high, so he doesn't care. He wants something that's going to run and last a long time, and for him, a CVT transmission is perfectly fine. I don't hear bearings howling or anything, so they did a good job from the wreck. Because a lot of times you get these wreck cars, a year or two later, they start howling because the bearings were bent and hit. And that's not the case in this. The guys did a real good job at that body shop. He added these cool hubcaps, and he's got steel wheels. They came from him Impreza. A lot of Subaru stuff is interchangeable because he wanted to get taller sidewalls for a better ride, and it works. And he does a little bit of off-roading. He likes chasing storms like my friend Hank. He hasn't gone as crazy as Hank, but he likes taking us out. The all-wheel drive, he's not going to get stuck in the mud. Goes to a field or something, he'll be able to make it through. Now, he just mentioned that other than the drive shaft, bare steel and stuff that's got corrosion on it, the rest of the vehicle doesn't have any corrosion at all. Subaru treats them pretty well. They're like Toyota. They know how to treat the metal so they don't rot away on them. You generally don't see rotting out Subarus anymore. Now, you used to decades ago. They rotted out like mad, but they've come a long way with their engineering. I gotta say, I always warned people in the past about Subarus decades ago. Head gaskets, blow transmissions were garbage. This new CVT transmission is fine. They don't blow head gaskets anymore, but do realize you're gonna keep them forever. You're gonna get those stupid silicone seal gaskets are gonna start leaking. You're gonna have to spend money on that. That's really the only downside of these things, that if you're a real cheapskate and you drive them forever, you're gonna be mad as a hornet when they start leaking. You gotta pull the engine out to replace. But when you consider this RAV4 was over 15 grand more than that car, well, maybe you won't care that much about spending a little money putting gaskets on because you saved that kind of change. Plus, understand this, you can get Subarus used at a lot lower price than RAV4s. I've seen RAV4s go almost for original price when they had 50, 60,000 miles on it. The Subarus don't go that way. You can get a much better price on them used too. So if you buy used, you're saving even more money. So you got to spend a little money later. But just realize, if you're looking at one that's got 150, 200,000 miles, really look at that engine. And if oil's dripping, I tell them, fix the engine, then I'll buy it. Don't buy it that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.